We have a number of things or issues to discuss this morning, and topical among them, whether it's a U-turn by the Ministry of Education as to whether, well, the students at various university or tertiary campuses will be charged utility bills the next academic year. According to a news release or a press release from the ministry, there has not been anything like that even on the table or for discussion at all. We'll see how that goes, because the students are threatened. So we have as our lead guest in the studio, Seth Kwame Champong. He's been through the vetting process of his party, the New Patriotic Party, but the Member of Parliament for Impriso is here with us. And thanks for joining me. You look good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look very relaxed. I think your vetting went well.
Oh, I must say I did well. I must say, I'm sure. I mean,
why do they vet the sitting MPs? Apart from that, maybe you may have done something or misconducted yourself in office. Why do you have to be vetted?
It's an office under review.
Okay.
Because each and every moment you have to go back and offer some account to who put you there. You are a rep of the people. The people must sit and then assess you and evaluate whether your stewardship is up to scratch, what they expect of you. There may be issues down in the space that you're working or operating in, and so in that respect you require some level of evaluation. So for me, that should be it. People's opinions vary, but since it's an enterprise that you offering service, and service is being discharged in the realm of representation, where you speak on behalf of people. So the people have varying opinion. So more often than not, your constant interaction with them will give them the sort of confidence that they reposed in you, whether it still stands or it is not. And then over the period, they will be able to tell whether you have matured, mastered the art well, or you require a change. So you are working for people. So people all constantly.
Your constituents, do they watch you on TV?
I'm sure some do. I'm sure some do.
Because
I get.
What you just said now is you put all those things down. Your communication is always right. Anyway, let's get on to the subject. And then the subject of the University of Ghana, as well as Cape Coast and another public sector university students paying utilities, and as we know, had been, well, if not announced, but reported in the media a couple of weeks ago, for which we've had the students coming strongly against, seem to be rescinded now, because the ministry has come out with a release, and within the release they said even that was not even up for discussion. It was just an idea they mooted in a discussion with the various student representative councils.
Thank you very much, Roland. Once again, let me say this. I pray that it is not going to metamorphose in other areas going forward. The concept of cost sharing has been with us for more than a decade, getting into 2 decades and beyond. I remember back in the 90s when we were in college at the time, the concept of cost sharing was introduced into our educational sector. It was heated when the debates were going on at the time. And I don't think we have left that era. I believe we're still in a transition in the educational sector, because our advisors over the period have offered us some of these advice, but we need to have a clear cut path that as a country, for instance, when this administration in its first tenure under His Excellency the late President took office, they embarked upon an educational forum where they brought all stakeholders when they wanted to change the tenure of the senior high school from 4 years into 3 years. I thought these were some of the issues that should have boarded the mind of the administrators at the time, so that they got every person who is a stakeholder in the educational sector to discuss the way forward. The only way this country is going to grow and develop, first and foremost, prime, is education. So it is a business, and you must look at it. Look at the number of higher learning private institutions that are springing up in our country. That is what is helping us meet that yawning gap in our middle level manpower that the system, the industries require. And so it tells you what education does for a developing country like ours. And so any leader worth their salt, this is your prime area you have to focus.
Okay, let me ask you, what do you think should be the mindset and the shift towards the next mindset, as far as offering subsidies or perhaps sponsoring or taking up the utility bills of the various universities, or even the tertiary institutions?
With our culture, we've had our traditional universities, and world over, in respect of education, there are policies as to those who would want to have a private education and those who would want to have a public education. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. That is, as you develop. Now, in our culture, in our system, it is not, we haven't gotten to that level yet. And so we put a lot of emphasis on public education. And so all our expenditures go for public education. And if you go into our state's budgets, if you go into our country's budget, education sector alone, the educational sector alone, takes close to 40%, a chunk of our national budget. So it must tell you this is your engine of growth, and this is what you have to develop. And so if our culture and our policy is that we must spend a lot on our public schools and help them go through the system, we get that. And then that must come with quality. It's not just throwing it out there.
But if we have this nauseating culture, so to speak, as you want to say the term culture, for which we have all these line items on the budget, which seems to be eating on our public expenditure, don't we need to have a rethink?
Our public expenditure, what are we supposed to use our revenues for? It's for ourselves. It's for the public. We must put them into judicious use.
And one of the most judicious uses for the education sector.
Exactly, because you are going to bring...
We have students, the students have parents.
People are going to...
And the parents are supposed to be responsible. Why can't they pay utility bills for their wards?
Beautiful. That is going back to the situation wrongly. I say so because who is coming to fuel the engine? It is the people you are helping to train in the educational sector. How do you structure your policy such that after spending so much of public funds on them, you're going to get it back from them? Other countries are doing it. They may be socialist countries, but today everybody is moving from the extremism to the center. And so you just need to rethink it, how to structure it in a policy to get people, some of us, whether we loved it or not, had to live in the system to ensure that we paid back the loans that we enjoyed in tertiary institutions from our SNIT contributions. And that is how one of the schemes that we need to rethink. I can't sit here and propose for anybody because I belong to a group and I must propose into the group. And it becomes...
So what you're saying that based on your experience on what the best practices around the world are, you don't think that's the right way to go? Taxing the students for the various public universities or wherever we can find them to be paying utility bills, because we have to find a way of making them perhaps be more resourceful. And
in our current dispensation,
right,
you may have the best of ideas, but the situations we find ourselves in do not permit you as a leader to implement those things immediately. Reasons being, the framework, the economic framework is not favoring anybody. And so as a result of that, you must think twice if you want to push up certain policies. I'm happy that government has made a U-turn, because for government to have started these conversations in Student Connect campuses, in programs on Student Connect, where government was engaging and discussing possible further cost-sharing measures in school, because if you ask students to pay for further utilities, it was academic facility, academic user facility. It is christened in several nomenclature, but then at the end of the day, it is cost sharing. But my point is that if we're going to go a full hog of cost sharing, that is a matter you have to put in the front burner. Set up a proper forum, get our stakeholders to come and share in this conversation.
So you're saying that government even got it right in the first place? Got it wrong. Got it wrong in the first place.
Wrong.
Okay. Now we're told that in a statement also signed by the Deputy Minister of Education in charge of pre-tertiary, Alex Streme, and it says government's policy regarding subsidy on water and electricity for tertiary students has not changed. But meanwhile, we're being told that Cabinet has ordered ECG and the Ghana Water Company to exempt schools and health posts from disconnections. We're told that way months earlier. It hasn't happened.
If I am to comment on this, you see, this comes back to how we have managed our systems, and we haven't helped ourselves. I believe government, these utility or service providing institutions wouldn't have an issue with such a directive from government if government was living up to its duty and was being responsible. Reasons are that payments that are supposed to go into these service providers as monies government owes it are not forthcoming. And so how do you expect the managers of these institutions to thrive going forward? It is simply not the best. And I look forward to a day these things will come help us. Because if we were paying the utility companies their bets, it will strengthen them to offer good service. As we sit here, I'm sure we're not going to discuss it, but it will dovetail or emanate in one of our conversations, our energy issues. If
well, we're discussing it. So
okay, very good. For instance, if government was paying the ECG the monies government owes, I'm sure ECG will have enough to work. If government was paying Ghana Water Company enough, I'm sure they will have enough to go forward. This directive, I'm sure these service providers are going to have issue with the Ministry of Education because it cannot have the right to direct them in that manner. Maybe Ministry of Finance may be doing so, but how responsible have Ministry of Finance been in forwarding what government owes these institutions? And so this is a major issue that government must set up and put its act together to ensure that these service providers are met at the point of their need. Government must offer them what it is due them.
Okay, so now we have to talk about the subject of the vigil that is expected to be organized by celebrities in Ghana, and it's a hashtag trending on Twitter and other social media pages. Doomsor must stop, and the vigil, we're told, is going to be organized somewhere in Accra. So we don't have to worry a lot more about it. But we'll be joined by Ebenezer Oklete-Telabi, Member of Parliament, and also we'll be having a thorough discussion on the subject as we conclude in the next 20 minutes. Do stay on.